Welcome to this explainer. You know the feeling, staring at an absolute mountain of research papers, you can't do a clean, quantitative meta-analysis, and you're just wondering, how on earth do I make sense of this without losing my mind? Well, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're completely transforming how we approach qualitative literature reviews by breaking down the step-by-step methodologies to actually synthesize research effectively.
Our core philosophy today boils down to this: stop cataloging, start building. Seriously, the single most common mistake researchers make is just creating a giant, descriptive list of summaries. You know exactly what I mean. Smith found this in 2020. Jones argued that in 2021. Guys, that's just cataloging. We've got to stop doing that and start actively building a cohesive argument instead.
We like to call this the librarian mindset. Think about that chaotic energy when you're just stacking up descriptive summaries. You've got high energy, you're reading a ton of papers, but you have zero focus. You're holding on to what Smith and Jones found, but you're not actually connecting the dots between them. It's totally overwhelming, and frankly, it just doesn't lead to a compelling review.
So, we need a massive paradigm shift here. Enter the architect. The architect doesn't just stack books on a shelf, they master the state of the art. They take all those raw research materials, the data, the theories, the findings, and they strategically construct a completely new perspective. That is exactly the mindset we're adopting today.
It's absolutely crucial to understand this explicit contrast. The librarian is passive, right? They collect, they list things chronologically, and they summarize individual findings. But the architect? The architect synthesizes. They group information thematically. They build arguments to literally map the scholarly conversation. And by mapping that conversation, the architect doesn't just report what's already there. They discover what's missing. They find the silence in the research.
Here is our blueprint for today's explainer. 1. Librarian versus the architect. 2. Bandara's Qualitative Coding Framework. 3. Thomas and Hardin's methodology. 4. Handling contradictory research findings. And 5. Quality appraisal and transparency. Let's jump in.
Section 1. Librarian versus the architect.
Okay, so our ultimate tool here is the synthesis matrix. Instead of thinking about individual articles in a vacuum, you've got to start thinking in themes. It's kind of like a giant puzzle. Each row is a source, and each column represents a key theme or argument. As you fill this out, you aren't just taking notes, you're creating a visual map. You can instantly spot where the discussion is super crowded, and more importantly, you see those empty cells? That's where the conversation is eerily quiet. And boom, that is your potential research gap.
Section 2. Bandara's Qualitative Coding Framework.
If we look at Phase 2 of the Bandara framework, it shows us exactly how to organize and prepare for qualitative analysis. Look, before you even think about diving into reading and extracting your data, you have to make a strategic decision. You have to design your coding approach. Are you going to be purely interpretive, or are you doing more of a meta review? This flowchart essentially guides you to select the right approach before you even touch the data.
So what exactly are those approaches? Well, deductive coding means you're using a pre-existing theoretical framework, which is fantastic if you're testing a specific theory. Inductive coding means the codes emerge organically directly from the data. That's ideal for exploratory research where the landscape is kind of still a mystery. But for most of us, especially in thesis-level work, the combined approach is really the sweet spot. You start deductively with a small set of codes based on your research question, and then you just allow inductive codes to surprise you as you analyze the data.
Section 3. Thomas and Hardin's methodology. Thomas and Hardin's 2008 methodology gives us this mandatory 3-stage process for synthesis. Step 1 is straightforward, line-by-line coding of the findings from your included studies. Step 2, you group those related codes into descriptive themes. But Step 3 is where the magic actually happens. That's generating analytical themes. This is where you move from basic descriptions of what happened to actively interpreting what the evidence actually means.
Let's clarify that. Analytical themes are interpretations that go way beyond mere description. They explain what the evidence means, specifically in relation to your research question. This is the ultimate structural framing of your argument. It's exactly what separates a standard, run-of-the-mill review from a brilliant, architect-level synthesis.
Section 4. Handling contradictory research findings.
So what happens when the research fundamentally disagrees? Well, as an architect, you definitely don't sweep this under the rug. Contradictions are not roadblocks to be hidden or cherry-picked. No way. They are massive opportunities to deepen your understanding of the field. Academic discourse actually advances through thoughtful engagement with contradictions, not by forcing some artificial consensus.
Here is exactly how you handle them.
First up, methodological analysis. Examine the sample sizes and the rigor. Maybe the studies disagree simply because one used a fundamentally weak method. Second, contextual consideration. Are there cultural or historical differences at play? Maybe both studies are actually right, just in completely different contexts. And third, theoretical integration. Look for higher-order constructs that might encompass both perspectives. By embracing these contradictions, you make your overarching argument incredibly robust.
Finally, Section 5, Quality Appraisal and Transparency.
Listen, detaching quality from synthesis is a massive mistake. The confidence in your conclusions absolutely must reflect the quality of the underlying evidence. Not all bricks in your building are created equal. If you're relying on weak studies without proper qualification, it literally undermines your entire architectural build. You have to appraise the quality of your sources and synthesize them accordingly.
And this is where the Prisma 2020 flow diagram comes in. Frankly, it's non-negotiable. It's a mandatory element for reporting to ensure complete analytical transparency. It visually documents the exact flow of records through your review process, from identification to screening, eligibility, and final inclusion. This ensures your final review meets the absolute highest standards of academic rigor, proving exactly how you built your argument from the ground up.
We'll end on this really powerful thought. A literature review is not a passive report of past discoveries. It is an active, creative act of intellectual architecture. I really hope this explainer has given you the blueprint to abandon that librarian mindset, apply these methodologies, and construct your own compelling, gap-revealing research argument. The only question left is, what will you build next?